My legs won't stop shaking.
What did you do to me last night?
She wasn't shouting. That was the first thing I noticed. For someone who could bench press a steel crate without breaking a sweat. The fact that her voice came out quiet, unsteady, was way more alarming than if she'd been yelling at me. She was standing near the wall, one hand pressed flat against it, like she needed the support just to stay upright. Her fingers flexed slightly, gripping nothing, and then her legs trembled again. Not just a small shake either, the kind that forced her to pause completely, like her body just refused to cooperate. For a second, I thought she was injured. "Hey, did something happen?" I asked, already stepping toward her. "I did exactly what you told me," she said, cutting me off before I could get any closer. Her eyes were locked on me now, not angry, not yet. Just confused. And that somehow made it worse. "You said it was normal," she continued, her voice low, controlled, but strained around the edges. A simple human routine. Nothing complicated. And just like that, my brain started running through everything we did last night. Dinner movie, talking, laughing, stretching. "Oh no." She tried to take a step toward me. Bad idea. Her knee dipped slightly, and she immediately reached out, grabbing the edge of the table beside her. A quiet breath slipped out of her, somewhere between frustration and disbelief, like her body had just betrayed her in the most inconvenient way possible. "This isn't normal," she muttered, almost under her breath. I rubbed the back of my neck, trying not to react too quickly. "Okay, hold on. Define not normal, because my body does not respond like this," she said, a little sharper now, though the confusion was still there. "Not to something you described as simple." She shifted her weight again, testing it, and immediately tensed when her legs trembled harder this time. Her glowing skin flickered faintly, a soft pulse of light running along her arms like her system was trying to process something it didn't understand. "Yeah, okay, that's, I exhaled slowly. "That's new." Her gaze snapped back to me. "There is also something else," she added more quietly now. "That tone? I didn't like that tone." "What kind of something else?" I asked carefully. She hesitated. Actually hesitated. This was the same alien who once asked me, with a completely straight face, if humans shed their skin seasonally like reptiles. She didn't do hesitation. She just said things. But now she looked like she was trying to find the right words and coming up short. "My muscles feel weak," she said finally, "but not damaged. There is no pain. Only," she paused, her brows pulling together slightly, "residual sensation." I blinked. Residual what? She ignored that part. "It has not gone away since last night," she continued, her voice dropping just a little. "Even while I was in rest mode." "Rest mode?" "Right, sleep." "Okay, hold on," I said, holding up both hands now. "Before we jump to conclusions, let's just walk this back a little. Last night, we didn't do anything crazy. We had food, watched a movie, and then you instructed me to follow your physical routine." Yep, there it was. I let out a slow breath. It wasn't a routine, it was stretching. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "You used the word leg day." "Yeah, that's..." "Okay. In hindsight, I can see how that sounds worse than it is." She tried to straighten up, clearly attempting to regain some dignity. But the moment she shifted her stance, her legs betrayed her again with another small tremor. This time she exhaled sharply through her nose, clearly irritated. "I executed every movement exactly as you demonstrated," she said. "Precision is not the issue. I'm not saying it is," I replied quickly. "Actually, that might be the problem." That made her pause. "Explain." I gestured vaguely toward her legs. "Humans don't usually go from 0 to full intensity on their first try. Those stretches, squats, lunges, you kind of went all in. You said, and I quote, 'push through it,'" she replied immediately. "Okay, yeah. But there's a difference between pushing through it and going full alien warrior mode on your first workout." She stared at me. Then, very slowly, she said, "You demonstrated the movements with ease. I've been doing them for years." I shot back. "You just copied everything at like triple intensity." That actually seemed to land. Her expression shifted slightly, not fully convinced, but thinking. "I did increase the range of motion for efficiency," she admitted after a second. "Yeah, I noticed," I muttered. There was a brief silence. Then she looked down at her legs again, like she was reassessing them, and as if on cue, they trembled again, subtle, but enough to remind both of us this wasn't over. "This level of instability is inconvenient," she said flatly. I couldn't help it. I let out a small laugh. She immediately looked back up at me. "You find this amusing?" No, I mean, a little, but not in a bad way," I said, trying to recover. "It's just you're not broken. I am clearly malfunctioning." "You're sore?" I corrected. She frowned. "That term is insufficient." "It's accurate," I insisted. "Your muscles aren't used to what you did last night, so now they're basically complaining. My muscles are complaining." "Yeah." She went quiet again, processing that, and this residual sensation, she asked after a moment. I hesitated. "Also normal." Her eyes narrowed again. "You are certain?" "I mean, yeah," I said, though I was already bracing for follow-up questions. "After a good workout, your body kind of lingers in that state for a while. It's not dangerous." She studied me for a long second, like she was trying to decide whether or not to believe me. Then, her leg trembled again. And this time, she actually let out a quiet, frustrated breath. "This is highly inefficient," she muttered. I shrugged slightly. "Welcome to being human." She looked at me again, longer this time, quieter, and then, in a tone that was way less accusing and way more uncertain, she asked, "What exactly did we do?" And that was the moment it really hit me. From her perspective, last night probably didn't feel like a casual stretching session. It probably felt like something else entirely. Something intense, overwhelming, hard to explain. I rubbed the back of my neck again, already knowing this conversation wasn't over. "Honestly," I said, "we just worked out." She didn't respond right away. Her eyes stayed on me, searching, questioning, like she was trying to match my answer with what her body was telling her, and judging by that slight flush of light running across her skin again. "Yeah." She wasn't fully convinced. She didn't look convinced, not even a little. Her eyes stayed on me, steady and searching, like she was trying to line up my explanation with what her body was still feeling, and the two just weren't matching. "Woo worked out," she repeated slowly, like she was testing the words. "That is your final answer." I shifted my weight. "That's the accurate one, yeah." Another small tremor ran through her legs, and this time she didn't even try to hide it. Her grip on the table tightened slightly, her fingers pressing into the surface as she steadied herself. "This level of after-effect is disproportionate," she said. "Your species engages in this workout regularly." "Yeah." "And you experience this loss of control every time." "Not every time," I said quickly. "Just when you overdo it. Which you definitely did." She went quiet again. That faint glow along her arms flickered once, then settled, like her body was still running background checks on everything I was saying. "I calculated my output based on your demonstration," she said after a moment. "Your movements appeared manageable. That's because I wasn't going full intensity," I replied. "I was showing you the basics." Her head tilted slightly. "You did not specify a reduced capacity." "I didn't think I had to," I said, then paused. "Okay. Yeah, that's on me." Another silence stretched between us, but this one felt different, less tense, more thoughtful. Then she shifted again, and immediately regretted it. Her leg gave a sharper shake this time, and she sucked in a small breath, her posture tightening as she tried to stabilize herself. "Still happening?" I asked, softer now. "It has not stopped," she said, her voice a little lower than before. Not panicked, just aware. I stepped a bit closer, slower this time so I didn't startle her. "All right, just don't lock your knees like that. You'll make it worse." Her gaze flicked to me. "Worse?" "Yeah. Bend them a little. Keep your balance centered." She hesitated. Then, carefully, she adjusted her stance just slightly. The trembling didn't disappear, but it eased. Not gone, just less sharp, less sudden. Her expression shifted almost immediately. "That reduced the instability," she admitted. "Yeah," I said, giving a small nod. "Your muscles are tired, not broken. You just need to work with them, not against them." She tested it again, shifting her weight more deliberately this time. Another tremor followed, but she stayed upright. That seemed to surprise her more than anything. "I am still operational," she murmured. I couldn't help a small smile. "Told you." She ignored that, but I caught the way her shoulders relaxed just a fraction. For a few seconds, neither of us said anything. Then, "This soreness," she said, her tone quieter now, less confrontational. "How long does it persist?" "Depends," I answered. "Usually a day or two. Maybe longer if you really pushed it." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Define really pushed it." I gave her a look. "You couldn't walk 10 minutes ago." "I can walk." "Barely." She didn't argue with that. Another pause. Then she looked down at her legs again, like she was studying them as if they belonged to someone else. "They feel unfamiliar," she said. "Yeah," I replied. "That happens. Your muscles just went through something new. They'll adapt." And the lingering sensation. There it was again, that part she kept coming back to. I exhaled slowly, also part of it. She looked up at me, searching again. "It does not feel like strain," she said. "It is not pain. It is," she paused, struggling again for the right word. "Persistent." "Yeah," I said carefully. "That's normal too. Your body's basically reacting to what you did. It doesn't shut off instantly." She held my gaze for a long second, then quietly. "It is distracting." I blinked. "Distracting how?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she shifted her stance again, more controlled this time, but the movement triggered another small wave through her legs, a subtle tremor that ran upward before settling. Her glow flickered faintly with it. She noticed that. And that seemed to bother her more than the shaking. "My system is still responding," she said almost to herself. "Yeah, that's kinda how bodies work," I replied. "They don't just flip a switch and stop." She went quiet again. But this time, it wasn't confusion. It was analysis. I could see it in the way her posture straightened slightly, in the way her breathing evened out, just a bit despite the occasional tremor. She was adjusting, mentally if not physically. Then her eyes moved back to me. "You experience this regularly?" she said. "Not like this every time," I answered. "But yeah, it's part of the process." "And you willingly repeat it?" I shrugged. "Gets easier and stronger. Eventually, you don't feel like your legs are about to give out." She considered that. Then, slowly, "I will adapt." I smiled slightly. "That's the spirit." Another small tremor ran through her legs. She steadied herself faster this time. No grabbing the table, no sudden panic. Just a controlled adjustment, like she was already learning how to deal with it. Progress. But then, she looked at me again, and there was something different in her expression now. Less confusion, less frustration, more a curiosity. "You said this was a basic routine," she said. "Yeah. And there are more advanced variations." I hesitated. "Yeah." Her eyes held mine. "Then your earlier statement was incomplete." I frowned slightly. "How?" "If this was a minimal demonstration," she said, her tone steady now, "then the full capability of this workout has not yet been shown." I stared at her for a second. "You want to do more?" "My body is already adapting," she replied. "It would be inefficient to stop now." I let out a short breath, somewhere between a laugh and disbelief. "You can barely stand." "I am still operational." "That's not the same thing." Another small tremor. She didn't even flinch this time. "If this is a standard human conditioning process," she continued, completely serious, "then I will complete it." I shook my head slightly. "You're not supposed to max it out on day one. Your instructions did not include that limitation." "Yeah, and now I'm including it." I shot back. "Rest is part of it too." She paused at that. Actually paused. "Rest is required," she repeated. "Very," I said. "Probably the most important part right now." Her gaze dropped slightly, like she was running that through whatever system she used to make decisions. Then she exhaled slowly. "Accepted." I blinked. That was easier than I expected. "I am prioritizing efficiency," she said. "Right." Another quiet moment passed. Then her legs trembled again. She steadied herself. And this time, when she looked back at me, there was the faintest hint of something new in her expression. Not panic, not confusion, not even frustration. Just a quiet, focused curiosity. "Next time," she said, "you will provide full instructions." I huffed out a small laugh. "Yeah, next time I definitely will." Because something told me. There was definitely going to be a next time. She said it so calmly. "Next time you will provide full instructions." Like we were discussing a routine briefing. Like her legs hadn't just been shaking uncontrollably 5 minutes ago. I let out a slow breath and ran a hand through my hair. Yeah, about that next time. We're not doing that today. Her eyes narrowed slightly. You stated adaptation requires repetition. It does, I said. Just not immediately after you nearly collapsed. I did not collapse. You almost did. I remained standing. Because you grabbed the table. That is still standing. I stared at her. She stared back. Completely serious. I exhaled through my nose, already feeling this was going to turn into one of those arguments where logic didn't matter because she was technically not wrong. Look, I said, trying a different angle. Your muscles need time to recover. If you push them again right now, you're just going to make it worse. She tilted her head slightly. Worse in what way? You'll feel weaker, not stronger. More unstable. Probably more of that lingering sensation you don't like. That got her attention. Her posture shifted just a little, like she was reconsidering. That outcome is undesirable, she admitted. Exactly. A small tremor ran through her legs again, softer this time, but still there. She adjusted her stance without thinking now, bending slightly, stabilizing herself the way I showed her earlier. Progress again. But she didn't look away from me. You experience this cycle regularly, she said. Strain, recovery, improvement. Yeah. And you continue despite the initial loss of function. I shrugged. Because it doesn't stay like that. You get stronger. Her gaze lingered on me for a second longer than usual. Then she asked, is that why your species places value on physical conditioning? I blinked. Oh, yeah. That and health. And, not falling over when you walk. I am not falling over. You're thinking about it really hard, though. She ignored that. But I caught the faint shift in her expression again, that quiet, internal recalibration she did when she accepted something but didn't feel like admitting it out loud. Her grip on the table loosened slightly. Carefully, she let go. For a moment, she just stood there, no support. No sudden grab for balance. Her legs still trembled, but she held herself steady. I raised an eyebrow.
Okay, that's actually better.
I am adjusting, she said simply. Yeah, I can see that. She took a slow breath, then tested her balance again, shifting her weight from one leg to the other. There was a slight dip, a small shake, but she didn't panic this time, didn't reach out, didn't lose control. She just corrected it. I am adapting, she repeated, quieter now. There was something different in her voice this time. Not just observation. Something closer to satisfaction. And that's when I realized she liked this. Not the shaking part, not the confusion, but the process, the challenge, the idea that her body had limits and that she could push past them. Careful, I said, watching her. That's how it starts. She glanced at me.
How what starts?
You getting addicted to it. Her brows pulled together slightly. Addicted. Yeah, I said. Humans get hooked on that feeling. Improvement, progress, pushing limits. She considered that. Then, that is inefficient. I smirked. Says the one who wants to do another round right now. She didn't respond, but she didn't deny it either. Another quiet second passed. Then she shifted again, this time more intentionally. One step, slow, controlled. Her leg trembled as her foot touched the ground, but she held it. Didn't stumble. Didn't reach for support. Then another step. Same thing. I watched closely, ready to step in if she slipped, but she didn't. By the third step, the shaking was still there, but it wasn't controlling her anymore. She stopped after a few paces, standing a little straighter now. Her breathing was steady, her glow calmer. Mobility is improving, she said. I let out a small laugh. Yeah, that's usually how walking works. She ignored the joke. But there was that faint flicker again, just at the corner of her expression. Not quite a smile, but close. Then her gaze shifted back to me. Focused again, curious again. You said this was only a basic routine, she reminded me. I sighed. We're not doing that again today. I did not request immediate repetition. I paused. You didn't? No. That caught me off guard. Then what are you asking? She took a small step closer, steady this time, even if there was still a slight tremor underneath it. For full instruction, she said. Later, I said quickly. Much later. I require understanding, she replied. If this process alters physical capability, then I must analyze it completely. You can analyze it while sitting down, I pointed out. She paused, looked at the chair, then back at me. Sitting is acceptable. Progress. She moved carefully this time, lowering herself into the chair with controlled precision. There was a slight tension as she bent her legs, like she didn't fully trust them yet, but she managed it without issue. Once seated, she exhaled slowly. Her shoulders dropped just a little. The tension eased. Stability has increased, she noted. Yeah, I said. That's what rest does. She leaned back slightly, still watching me. Then explain, she said. I crossed my arms. Explain what? The purpose of each movement, she replied. Their effect on muscle groups. The reason for repetition. The long-term outcome. I stared at her for a second. You want the full breakdown?
Yes. Right now. Yes.
I huffed out a quiet laugh.
You're serious? I am always serious. Yeah, I've noticed.
She didn't react to that, just kept watching me, waiting. And the thing was, she wasn't asking out of confusion anymore. She understood what had happened, at least the basics. Now, she wanted to understand it better, deeper. And something told me, this wasn't just about curiosity. This was the beginning of something else. Something that wasn't going to stop at one workout. I rubbed the back of my neck again, already knowing I wasn't getting out of this. All right, I said finally. But if I explain all this, you have to promise me one thing. Her eyes narrowed slightly. State the condition. No more full intensity on day one. She considered it. Accepted. And you listen when I say stop. A brief pause. Then, accepted. I nodded slowly. Okay, then we start with the basics. She leaned forward just a little. Focused. Attentive. Ready. And yeah, something told me this was going to spiral way beyond a simple misunderstanding. She leaned forward slightly in the chair, completely focused now. Not confused. Not panicked. Just locked in. Begin, she said. I let out a small breath, half expecting this to somehow go off the rails again. All right, so what we did last night, those movements, they target different muscle groups. Legs, core, balance. When you repeat them, you create small amounts of stress in the muscle fibers. Stress, she repeated. Yeah, controlled stress. I clarified. Nothing harmful. Your body repairs it, and when it does, the muscles get stronger. She didn't interrupt this time. Didn't question every word. She just listened. Actually listened. And the shaking, she asked after a second. That's your muscles being tired, I said. They're basically saying, hey, we're not used to this. It's a normal response. And the lingering sensation. I hesitated for half a second. Also part of it, I said. Your body doesn't just shut off after something intense. It kind of stays active for a while. She went quiet, absorbing that. Then she looked down at her legs again. They were still trembling slightly, but it was different now. Less sharp, less unpredictable, more like background noise. I do not dislike it, she said suddenly. I blinked. Wait, what? She looked back up at me, calm as ever. It is unfamiliar, but not unpleasant. I opened my mouth, closed it, then tried again. You were literally accusing me of breaking your body 10 minutes ago. I lacked information, she replied simply. Right. Another small tremor passed through her legs, and this time she didn't react to it at all. Didn't even look down. Just let it happen. Adapted. I can feel the response decreasing, she added. Gradually? Yeah, I said. That's recovery kicking in? She nodded once, like that confirmed something important. Then her eyes shifted back to me again. That same focused look. That same curiosity. But now there was something else mixed in. Something quieter. Demonstrate again. She said. I frowned. No. Demonstration improves understanding. You're still recovering. I am stable? Barely. I am seated. That's not the same thing. She held my gaze. Unblinking. Unmoving. Completely serious. And for a second, I thought she was going to push it again, argue, insist, override whatever I said with pure stubborn logic. But instead, she leaned back slightly. Then verbal instruction will suffice, she said. I paused, then nodded. Good call. She didn't respond to that, but I caught the slight shift in her posture again, that subtle adjustment she made whenever she chose to cooperate instead of challenge. Small wins. So, I continued, each movement has a purpose. Squats build leg strength. Lunges help with balance and coordination. Holding positions builds endurance. Over time, everything gets stronger, more stable. She listened carefully, tracking every word. And repetition increases efficiency, she said. Exactly. And rest allows reconstruction. Yeah! She nodded again, slower this time, more certain. Then she exhaled quietly, her shoulders finally relaxing in a way they hadn't since this whole thing started. My earlier conclusion was incorrect, she said. I raised an eyebrow. Which one? That you caused damage. I smirked slightly. Took you long enough? I required data. You had me? I pointed out. I required accurate data. Fair. A brief silence settled between us. Not awkward, not tense. Just calm. Her legs still trembled faintly, but it barely registered now. She had control, understanding, context. And that made all the difference. Then, she stood up. I straightened immediately. Hey, careful. I am fine. She moved slower this time, more controlled. There was still a slight shake in her legs when she fully straightened, but she compensated for it naturally now, adjusting her balance without thinking. No grabbing walls, no stumbling. Just a small, visible effort. Mobility has improved further, she said. Yeah, I replied. She took one step, then another. Each one steadier than before, not perfect, but far from where she started. And then she stopped right in front of me, close enough that I had to tilt my head slightly to keep eye contact. You said improvement continues with repetition, she said. I sighed. We're not doing another session today. I did not request one. You didn't? No. I narrowed my eyes slightly. Then what are you doing? There was a small pause. And then, for future preparation, she said. Before I could react, she reached out. Not fast. Not aggressive. Just deliberate. Her hand closed lightly around my wrist. Warm, steady, but firm enough that I knew she wasn't just idly touching me. I froze for half a second. I will require guidance, she continued, her tone calm, like this was the most logical thing in the world. Your demonstrations are effective. Yeah, and your presence appears to improve my execution. I blinked. My presence. She nodded once. Your instructions were more efficient in direct proximity, she said. Therefore, continued proximity is optimal. I stared at her, trying to process that, trying to figure out if she even realized how that sounded. You mean coaching? I said slowly. Yes. Just coaching? Yes. I let out a quiet breath. Okay, yeah. Coaching. That's fine. She held my wrist for another second. Then, just as calmly as she'd grabbed it, she let go. Then it is decided, she said. I rubbed the back of my neck again, already feeling where this was going. Yeah, I muttered. That's definitely what I'm worried about. She tilted her head slightly. Concern detected. You have no idea? She didn't press, didn't question it. Just turned slightly, taking another careful step, and this time her legs barely trembled at all. Recovery is progressing, she said. Good, I replied. But I wasn't really focused on that anymore. Because now I knew. This wasn't a one-time misunderstanding. This wasn't just a simple human routine gone wrong. This was the start of something much more consistent, much more complicated. And knowing her, she wasn't going to stop at basic. She was going to push, learn, adapt, and probably drag me along with her every step of the way. I let out a slow breath. Yeah, this was going to get interesting. Next session, she said, glancing back at me, completely serious. You will provide full instruction. I shook my head, already half smiling despite myself. Yeah, I said. Next time, I will.